Hey everyone, welcome to the layer walkthrough for the Simply Smoke version 2 template design. So this one does differ up from the original Simply Smoke template in that the first one had more like dispersed type of smoke, a little bit more atmospheric type of smoke, and this one's really designed to have more volume to the smoke, so more structure out of the smoke. It's just a different look and a different vibe. I think both are really cool and both have their place, but this is just another option if you're looking for some variety in creating your smoke images. I think this could be a great set. So let's just take a look at what we've got in here. Pretty straightforward, but starting at the top we have our color grading layers. So that's what's going to give us the extra kind of color saturation, contrast punch, things like that. Again, you can open this group. There's 3 different layers in here. I can see this top layer is just kind of giving some decontrast to give it a little bit more of that realistic, atmospheric type of decontrasty look to the image. Then you're getting a lot of the contrast and color from that second grade, and a little bit of contrast balance with the first one. But again, you could change the layer opacities of all these to suit your taste as you would like. So let's keep going down. We got our facial highlight boost for lighter and darker skins. We'll take a look at that in a minute. Jumping below that, we're going to skip down one to the foreground smoke options. So there's 7 different foreground smoke layers in here. So again, these just can be turned on and off just to add some extra interest to the foreground. And then also with each of these attached to this, you're going to see a foreground smoke color option. So if you turn this off, you're just going to get that white smoke type of look. Now, one thing that I've found with the color turned on, this is just a simple color picker, but if you want more kind of color and volume to the smoke, you'd go with a lighter tone of the color you want. And then if you wanted that smoke to recede a little bit more, just go with a darker color. And that's going to be same with the background as well, but we'll take a look at that. So let's click OK here. So there's our foreground smoke options. Then we have some flare in here that's going to come in from that corner. And I just find this helps create more of that realistic, like there's a light in the background lighting up this smoke, and it's kind of flaring and catching the camera a little bit. So again, it's just a little realism type of thing in there. But that, you could change the color of that flare, you could change the opacity, and we'll see what that looks like over top of a subject in just a minute. Speaking of subject, below that, we'll skip this one layer. We have our red. Red means subject, so our group here, place subject in this group. You can see you can expand that. We got a note subject here. We've got a subject ready to turn on in just a minute. Clipped to this group, this is going to do some darkening of the lower feet and legs of the subject, again just for that realism behind the smoke. Below that is some vibrance boosting in that background to really push that kind of bright color type of look. And then below that we have a couple coloring options. So let's turn this one off. First we got our background color. So that's what's going to give the background that overall color wash. So kind of the main color. It could be just the only layer that you use if you're looking for a single color as well. But then I added this accent color. And that's to give it that idea that perhaps there's like a couple different colored gel lights in the background, creating some of that flare and that color back in the smoke. So again, these are just simple color pickers. So again, if you wanted kind of more volume and brightness, you could bring a lighter and more saturated tone that you're looking for in that color. Or if you go darker, it's going to give it more of that receded, and I think a little bit more natural, just depending on the look that you want. And then below that, there's a couple of these smoke highlight boosts. I find with some of the backgrounds, it looks pretty cool to turn some of these on, and you can see it kind of boosts just some different areas and pockets within the smoke to make it feel like those lights are really kind of blasting in there in the background. But you could also turn it off, if you wanted a little more subtle look. But there's a couple different options depending on how brightly you want things, and they interact different with the different smoke backgrounds. So those are kind of fun to play around with in there as well. And then finally we have our background smoke options. There's 25 different smoke backgrounds in here, and you can easily just turn these on and off to see all of the different ones. I like to just drop a subject in and then just run through some of the options. One thing I did do different on this one is a few of these have some of these lights up here in the top, just to give it some little added extra interest with this thick smoke. So that's a little bit different from the version 1 of Simply Smoke as well. But let's turn the subject on, and then let's take a look down here what we got going on. So what we do is just drop our subject in here. Just with almost all the designs, I try and make it super user friendly to just drop your subject in, and then have a couple tweaks and be good to go. So subject's in. If we look at this darken lower subject, this is where you're going to see, let me turn that foreground smoke off. This is where you're going to see it's given that darkening around the feet and the legs there, again, just to keep it a little more realistic and natural looking. So that's all that's doing. Now the first thing I like to do when bringing a subject in is Command or Control T. Like, we could resize him. Let's make him just a little bit smaller, but I like him to fill up the image there. Now the one thing that I want to do if we're using full length, of course you could go with no feet and make this more of a 3/4 image, but if it's full length, I do like to add some ground effects in here just to ground our subject. And I'm just going to keep this pretty simple. First thing I'm going to do is hold Alt or Option and drag our subject down to create a copy. Then Command or Control T, right click, and I'm going to flip this vertically, and I'm just going to start by bringing these feet down to kind of line up under the feet here, something kind of like that. Again, this doesn't have to be perfect, this is just going to give an indication of a shadow or a reflection. And then I might even pull opacity down on that a little bit. And then the next thing I like to do is just add a blank layer. I'm going to come over here and grab a black brush, and I'm going to make sure my flow is somewhere low, 20s, something like that, soft round brush. And I'm just going to add kind of some brush strokes under the feet here to make it feel like those ground contact shadows, but also like to pull those forward, just the indication that there's some backlight casting some shadow forward. And then one more blank layer, and I'm just going to make this brush not that big, just slightly bigger. There we go. And I'm just going to give a little indication of shadowing in the middle, right like this. And then I like to come up here to filter, blur, and just put a little side to side motion blur on this, just to kind of extend out. There we go. And it's just to give that indication of like his body kind of casting a shadow there. And I might just arrow down, move that forward just a bit. There we go. So that's enough to give an indication that he's in the scene, and his feet are making contact with the ground. That's all I really care about. All right, so kind of keep it pretty quick and easy for what I do. Now let's set our background colors first. So I definitely think I want to go like for our main color in this red area, right? Because you got the red jersey on. You could always sample from the jersey, and you can see those brighter tones really give a lot of like volume into that background smoke. But I'm going to bring this down into a darker realm like that, let that recede a little bit, let our subject stand out, maybe just a hair brighter. Let's do that. Click OK. For the accent color, I think maybe I want to go something with like in this orangish, yellowish, just a little offset from red type of vibe. Let's try this, but again, let's bring the color way down on it. And then I like that I can just click around here and see kind of in real time. I kind of dig that. So it's just kind of like this orangish type of wash that's just a little bit, it's just a little off of the red here that we have picked. But it just gives enough dimension to, just so there's some interest back there. So that I kind of like that. That's pretty cool. And then, of course, we have our flare. So we can see if we turn that flare on and off, this is kind of the look that this gives. So again, just the idea that there's some light back here flaring out over the subject to kind of push your subject into that scene. So it's just a little compositing trick to make things look a little bit more realistic. Again, you could always turn that off, or you could always turn the opacity of that down if it was a little too strong, or if you wanted more, you could turn it up more. So that's the fun thing about that. And again, it's easy enough just to click on this if you wanted to change the color of that flare. Like you could make it red, or if you had a blue light, you could make it blue, right? If you could cool that down. So again, that's super fun to play around with. But I'm going to leave it where we had it because I like that warm flare. Now we're going to turn our foreground smoke on. And let's set a color for that. So we'll probably keep it in this realm of this red here. And again, the brighter that red, the more volume and more coverage you're going to see from that. The darker, the more you're going to see through it, the more it's going to recede. So I want to cover a little bit of the feet. That looks pretty good. So now that our colors are set, now I can take a look at some of the different smoke options to decide what I like here. So again, my process here is just kind of start at number 1 and just kind of click through. Like I love the look of that second one there with him. Looks super cool. I love that one. I love all of these actually, but really deciding what we want to drill down to. And I like that. That looks really cool. I love having this many options too, because if you're doing like a media day set or a team or something, this gives you the option to build a bunch of variety, so everybody doesn't have to have just the exact same background option. That number 11 I think looks really cool in there. So all of these could work. It's just deciding. I really like that one a lot too. Just deciding what we like here. That looks super cool. That looks really cool. I love a ton of those, but I think I'm going to go with number 11. That one really stood out to me for this one. There we go. So I'm going to leave that right there. Loving the look of that. And then same with the foreground smoke. You could just open this up and try any of these. And again, trying to build in some variety. So some are more subtle than others. A couple are a little more stronger. And again, we could always add more volume by brightening this up. Or even taking it kind of towards the desaturated so you get a little bit more of that smoky look. But I think I'm going to cancel this. I think I like that first one the best for this one. That looks pretty cool right there. So I love that. Another thing we could do is we'll come up to our facial highlight boost. Since he has some darker skin tones, I'm going to come up here to the darker skin option, pick my mask, come over with a white brush, and just paint over his face here just to brighten his face up a little bit. And I'm going to bring the opacity down on that just a touch so it's not so strong. So there we go, just enough to give his face a little bit more attention there. Don't need a ton. I like that, around 41%. Perfect. So we can call that done, but just to show the difference, we can also go with a more standard smoke look by just turning our colors off here and our colors off here. And then we can have that look of, you know, just kind of the black and white, you know, standard smoke type of look. But again, with the coloring on our subject and everything, I think it looks much cooler with the color turned on for this one. So there we go. There's an overall look on what we have existing in the design, how easy it is to drop your subject, look at some options, and put this together. So hopefully this helps. Can't wait to see what you guys do with this, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.